be on momentarily. You are live.
Awesome. Hello.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Today, I'm really especially excited to invite Jen Swanson to our show. She has over 20 years of experience leading digital product, marketing, and operations across private companies, hospitals, and universities. She is now the CEO and principal advisor at Tuckpoint Advisory Group, a consulting firm that helps companies achieve lasting digital and operating model transformation. I actually met Jen probably a few months ago, and since we started talking about products and operations and AI, I'm like, you know what, Jen, you just have to come onto the podcast because I think we had such a good time. We had booked, I think, 30 minutes. We ended up talking for like an hour and a half.
That's right.
I figured
That's right.
we should just bottle this up and put it on as a show. As for me, I'm Mustafa Kapadia. I help product organizations use AI to be more effective and efficient. You can learn more about me at echo-point.com. Jen, welcome to the show. And more importantly, we actually have a few audience members. So audience members, please welcome the show. Drop in the chat where you're from. And then we try to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have questions, midstream, if you have something to ask Jen, if you want something to ask me, just drop it in the chat. We're looking forward to it.
Great.
But anyway, Jen, welcome to the show. This is fantastic. I wish we had recorded our previous conversation, and this would have been a follow-up, but that's all right.
That's okay. That's okay. We can try to recreate the magic if you want to.
That's going to be hard. Lightning in a bottle. Yes.
Right.
We'll see. So, Jen, our topic for today is product teams need AI now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, it's not about waiting for 6 months.
Right.
In fact, I think that if you don't do it now, you're actually going to be behind.
Yes.
In my opinion.
I think maybe people are already behind, maybe.
Yes. Yeah,
right.
It depends on how they're using it. Yeah.
Right.
I just had a conversation with a CPO yesterday. And he's like, Mustafa, I don't know if I should buy a large language model or tools for my team. And I'm like, sorry, my friend, you're behind.
Right. And not to like create panic or anything like that, right? Because what's the adage? Like the best day to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best day is today, right?
It's today. So I agree.
Right.
And by the way, Christopher, thank you for joining us. Jen, I think you may know Christopher. So, hey, Jen, great to see you coming in from MPLS. And Elizabeth is coming in. Let me see this. I like this new StreamYard thing, which you can actually post the comments up. So, Christopher, thank you for coming.
Yep, I know Chris.
Also from Twin Cities. Welcome as well. Thank you for coming.
My Twin Cities peeps are representing well. I love it.
That's great. Clearly, there's a lot more enthusiasm there than Bay Area. So.
Well, it's early there. We can forgive them. They haven't had their coffee yet.
We have Harpreet from Twin Cities too. Great.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys are in the Bay Area, please show me some love because right now I feel like I'm overwhelmed by Twin City people.
It's okay.
So we have Chris as well, also from Minneapolis. All right, there you go. And just to let you know, my cousin lives in Twin Cities, so I do have affinity to your city.
Sure. Good connections.
All right, let's just start from the beginning, right? Like I said, we're gonna try to bottle the magic, right? Our conversation, if I remember correctly, it started with a story.
Yeah.
Right. You were actually having with a CTO or a CIO, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Why don't you just share that story and then let's start from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was like the genesis. It was for sure the genesis of this conversation that we're having on the podcast. I know because you didn't. I wanted your perspective on this, and you didn't give me your answer, and you said, "Let's wait and do it on the podcast." So I'm waiting with bated breath.
I'm almost impossible. I don't think so. There's ever a time in which I don't talk. So.
The conversation that I had was. So I work predominantly, so Tuckpoint Advisory Group, we do operating model transformations. We help stand up product organizations and that sort of thing. And I'm talking with the CTO who was, sort of in the middle of this transformation, moving from project to product.
Yeah.
And he was lamenting to me, he's like, listen, a dollar can only go so far, right, in our organization. And we know we've got pressures in a lot of directions to be pushing AI. And so if I've got a dollar, right, to spend on AI,
where do I spend it? Yes.
Why should I spend it? Why should I spend it on product, enabling product teams with AI versus enabling my engineering teams with AI,
Yeah.
right? And he was, he was coming at it from kind of, I think his mind was already made up that he should put the engineering enablement before the product enablement, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's a little bit of a false dichotomy. I was like, well, 50-50, like, can you do both, right?
Yes,
Kind
I
of thing.
think we
That's
need
where
to do
our
both, but
conversation had
that's
gone.
okay.
Right. But let's pretend for a minute that we're in sort of a Sophie's choice kind of position. You have to choose one or the other. And that was the question I had posed to you, is like, what is my answer to that? I mean, other than I'm always in the place that I want to stick up for product, right?
Yeah.
But I understand that pull, right? Like, there's so much that can be achieved when you're enabling engineering and product, but your quick answer was product, but I want to know more about why
Yeah.
you answered that way.
I have multiple things. Let me see if I can answer I'm going to do the consulting thing. I'm going to tell you 3 things.
It depends.
So first of all, I think I think to choose between the two, like you said, doesn't make sense, because I think you have to invest in both. But if you
Right.
had to choose only one,
Yeah.
where do you begin? Right.
Yeah.
And so my point of view is that, let's just talk from capability perspective, right? The maturity of the tools out there of what you can do are much more mature on product than they are in engineering. And what I'm
Okay.
trying to tell you is, we're still in the very early stages of using AI to do coding. And I'm talking about true coding, right? Not like you can stand something up evergreen. I'm talking about coding in which you can actually take AI and embed it into your own code that you have.
Right.
But that's 2 very different things. And I think
Right.
AI is not there. So from a capability perspective, we're still a little bit further away from there. So that's number 1. I think number 2 is, I don't know about you, Jen, but when I was at IBM and even at Google and all those places, the hardest part was knowing what to build.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You can enable your engineering, but if they're building the wrong things, all you're
Sure.
doing is speeding up the wrong build.
Right.
Right? And in fact, I had an article on this one in which I said that, AI slopware is coming. Just like AI LinkedIn posts are all over the place, slopware is going to take over the world. Because
Sure.
now anybody can build something on AI.
Right.
And so when you have a world in which you can build anything quickly, do you know what's the hardest thing to do?
Is build the right thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Deciding what to build.
Right.
And so if you want to have your brains of the organization in which you want to steer it in the right direction, I think you need to think about product first.
Right. Which, by the way, is still going to be a human. Is still is the call for the human interaction on that, right?
Yeah.
Right. So all the fear about the humans being replaced, like there's still right.
Yeah, I personally think that, so product is such an important thing in which it's a very creative art. Right?
Absolutely.
I know sometimes product managers have a hard time understanding it, but it's a creative art because you're taking lots of different data and you're actually doing things. There's no one way of doing it, right? It's not like 1 + 1 = 2. In product, you're always doing different things, shifting things around. And so with product, you really are looking at human AI optimization.
Sure.
What is the AI can do and how can it enhance human decision making?
Sure.
Right.
Well, and even if you think about the stuff of in like I go back to my roots of human-centered design, right? And you think about like the divergent, convergent, the IDEO model, right? You diverge and then you converge, right?
Yeah.
What AI is enabling product teams to do on that is to widen you actually get to widen the divergent almost exponentially, right? And then you can harness those tools then to converge, right, quicker, more effectively, even like right now we're doing some research within a client, right, where we're doing interviews, right, within we're not doing product interviews, but we're doing employee interviews to understand just how teams are working, right? But like, a year or 2 ago when we did that, how much time and effort that took versus now where we can take that content and we can look for themes in minutes, not in days, right?
Yeah.
So the diverge and the converge exercise can go wider fast, or can go much wider and
Much
can go
more,
much,
yeah.
right? That all of that can be much richer and much more efficient,
Yes.
right? Because of these tools.
Completely agree. I think though, I think the capabilities that product has now is a lot more than what you even had a few months ago or a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So for example, one of the clients we're working on, we're building something called a digital twin.
A
And a
digital
digital
twin.
twin, yes.
Okay.
And a digital twin is basically a digital twin of the environment. So we build a digital twin of the company. And
Okay.
so what is their teams they have? What is the products they have? What is the OKRs they have? We built a digital twin for the users, so synthetic users. And now we're building a digital twin of their competition. And so they can use these digital twins, and any ideas they have, they can spar with that digital twin and say, okay, if I push this feature out, if I build this product out, right? How are my users going to react? How is the competition going to react? And so those capabilities of key decision making have always are just new. It's a brand new capability. People just don't know how to. It, the client I have, they're still trying to grapple with how do I use this capability,
Oh, I can imagine.
right?
Right.
And so it is a very. So again, coming back to your original question, like, where do I invest in if I only have $1? I would say invest in digital in the decision making piece,
Yeah.
because that's the true differentiator, right? And my third question too is eventually we're going to get to the point at which building is going to get easier and easier.
Yeah.
And so when you get building, it gets easier and easier. Things just get faster if you can make better decisions.
Yeah.
Right. But I would go back to him or her and say, listen, it's never one or the other. I think you need to do both. And I think you need to do both because what else I'm finding out with with the clients I have is that once you speed up PMs, every other organization just has to speed up.
Sure. Right.
I mean, it is just like it's a waterfall effect.
Right. You're going to create other bottlenecks then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And the bottlenecks, by the way, show up in design.
Yep.
They show up in product marketing, and they show up in engineering.
Absolutely.
And it's much easier to say push because we have a good idea,
right,
than the other way around, in which I just optimize my silos. By the way, we have some few comments, so let me just show this up. And we have Matt. It's perfect. Thank you, Matt. Digital tools are cool and powerful. If you're using them, please drop them in chat. We would love to know how you're using them. And then we actually have Zinka, and Zinka says brilliant words. Thank you very much, Zinka. I appreciate it. So Jen, let's go to the next one, right?
Yeah.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Regardless of what we said,
yeah,
people are still hesitant, and some
Yes.
of it that you mentioned earlier, right? Some of
Yeah.
it is about losing jobs and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Tell me what you're hearing from your clients.
Well, I mean, I think so. So in some cases, it really is just feeling so vulnerable, right? And so uncertain and ill-equipped, right? Like, where do I even start? How do I even know where to start?
Yeah.
It is, if you're a nascent product organization, so, you know, so in an organization that is, has a healthy, mature product organization that's been running for, a few years, that maybe, and we all know, like, no product org is perfect. Most product organizations have, sort of, they have their cycles of, ups and downs. People leave, new people come in, so the maturity curve is hardly smooth. It's more of a zigzag, right? But for product organizations that have been maturing for a while, and where you have product managers that have been experimenting, right? Because they have command over their profession and their the way that they practice, right? They have command over their practice. They have the sort of emotional and intellectual space to experiment. I think that's easy because then it's grassrooting, right? So if you're a CPO or a CTO that is responsible for the bringing in these tools, you're bringing it in from the outside. But if you are running a less mature product organization or a nascent product organization where maybe it's just taking root, you maybe have only a few product teams, you're still trying to get product to take root in the organization, you're sort of fighting fires on a lot of fronts, right? And now all of a sudden you're like, great, now I've got this other big sort of game-changing thing I've got to figure out. I think it's like, how do you even know where to start?
It can be quite overwhelming.
Very overwhelming.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money. And by the way, for our audience, please let me know if you are an organization, what are the reasons why your organization may not be investing in AI? What are the fears? Maybe not yours, but maybe of your teammates or of your leadership for that matter. We would love to hear from you. I think you're right on. I think from a individual IC perspective, it can be quite threatening.
And it for them, it can be, is this coming for my job? If I introduce this, will someone think, oh, I can just replace you, right?
Exactly. And I will tell you that once PMs know how to use it effectively and the right way, they realize that it's actually a superpower, not the other way around.
Right.
But there's a lot of fear, and that fear needs to be educated. And by the way, that education has to come from leadership. Change management is a huge part of this piece. Right. And I actually think that we will ultimately need more PMs and not less.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
And it goes back to our earlier argument, is that when you can build anything, knowing what to build becomes the most important key.
Yeah.
Right. And the only people who are
finish.
I was going to say the only people who are capable or who have the skills to figure out what to build are PMs. Right.
Yeah.
It goes back to like why we have PMs. You know, PMs used to be the CEOs of product.
Yeah.
But we never gave them the chance to do that.
Yeah.
But now they have the chance to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, please go ahead.
No, so one of my questions is, and I know there's been some writing on this, but one of the things my team has been talking about is, especially in large scaled organizations where product and agile have scaled, there's this role of the PO, the product owner. I do think that role is in jeopardy, the product owner role.
I would agree with you, because I think the POs have to move upstream or become more strategic, right?
I agree.
And because I think that for a lack of a better word, and every company is different, but a lot of companies use POs for backlog grooming, which I think an AI can do well.
Yes.
And so you as a PO can just move upstream.
Yes.
Right. Because if you move upstream and become more strategic, you're more valuable.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
There are roles in which we will be impacted, but when you think about what a PM is supposed to do.
Yes. Yeah.
This enables them more than the other way around.
It's a value. It is part of the value chain, right? Is that value chain of what is in that backlog, right? I mean, for years, I was a big proponent that the PO is one of the most undersung roles in organizations, right? Because they really understood how those that value orientation and those outcomes were broken down into real work, right? And I still believe that, but I do think that some of that starts to get pretty automated pretty fast as these tools get more ubiquitous, right? But somebody that is able to think that way can very easily move up the value chain into those PM roles.
I agree.
If they're good at it, right?
Yeah. No, completely agree. And by the way, Elizabeth makes a great point. I'm going to switch from PMs to developers, because I think Elizabeth, you're right on. I think that if there are roles that are going to be impacted, it's going to be on the engineering side.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is where, and by the way, we see this as well with the companies that we have or the companies that we serve, in which the engineering is a lot more resistant to this than the other way around. And I think it's just, AI works much better when it's logic based.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to PM, in which is more creative. Development is more logic based, and so it has a way to impact engineering more. Now, there's ways that engineering teams can actually go up more upstream, and become more valuable. But again, I hear you completely, because Elizabeth, what you said is literally, I've heard echoes from CIOs and CTOs saying that we want to bring it in, but we're getting massive resistance from our engineering team, right? And for me, I tell them that the first place you go after is all the outsourcing contracts. That's where you start, right?
My friends that own our IT outsourcing companies are probably getting a little sweaty right now, but you're probably right.
Well, for them, and I have friends at IBM who are managing large contracts. And I have the same conversation with them. I said, listen, you need to move for more AI empowered development teams.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it, your clients are going to do it.
Well, listen, we've had that conversation at Tuckpoint. All of our consultants had that conversation too, where we were like, what's our threat level with AI? And we have decided our threat level with AI is that if we're not at the front of the pack, understanding how to use it and enabling our clients with it, then that's our existential threat.
Yes.
Right.
And, and here's the thing, I think you have to, like any other technology, you have to try to figure out how to move above it. Because when you move above it, you see new roles and opportunities that we have never seen or thought about.
Yeah.
The idea about a digital twin is so brand new.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so there's ways in which you can actually add value in which you may not have ever thought about.
Right.
And so, yes, I think engineering is going to be impacted. I think product not as much. I think it changes. I actually also think that there is going to be an influx of engineering and PO moving into product.
Yes, I think that's right.
Right.
Yep. And I think we'll be better for it because of the skill sets that we will see them bring with it. Right?
And you're seeing that happen already. The lines are blurring between product and design anyways.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to see more lines being blurred between engineering and product. And that's great because I think we do need that piece.
Yeah.
And then we all can kind of work on areas that we want. And by the way, the technical abilities, the architecture, the architecting skills you have, none of those get impacted.
Those get,
right.
There are still fundamentals that I think it's important for engineering to maintain. Yeah. One of the things I do have some concerns about is that, like when I look at my engineering partners over the years, right, those that have moved from frontline engineering through to leadership, what has made the leaders great is that they understood the fundamentals, right? So I have a high schooler who is a math nerd, right? Yeah. And one of the things that he has always wanted to do is to skip ahead, right? Because he gets excited about the big ideas in math. And we have always struggled with him to say, you can't skip the fundamentals. You got to learn the stuff you think is easy now, because if you don't learn that, you can't actually do well in the exciting stuff, right? And I think that I worry a little bit that if we automate too much, right, and we outsource too much to AI, that the future leaders in IT, I think we have to be thoughtful about how that happens. Just I think similarly in all of the disciplines that are leveraging AI.
I completely agree. And I think you have to start, at least from the engineering perspective, is you have to start small. You have to start on small projects and break things. Yeah. Right. I mean, we think about engineering and development, but there's just so much more that happens.
Totally. Right? And there's new fundamentals now, right? The fundamentals that exist now for the leaders later are
100%,
new.
100%. And the way you set it up and how you set it up. And by the way, security and privacy is huge now because of the way things are going. So now we need more. And cybersecurity is a big piece too. Yes. And so all of those other layers that usually we don't think about, or they get squeezed because we use more budget for development, can now be shifted in areas that we can actually then make ourselves hardened, right?
Exactly.
And so I actually think that the more we can push ourselves into that type of stuff, right? And trying to figure out, okay, what's going to happen to our data?
Yeah,
how do we manage our data?
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, let me just code something. It's a different value proposition. And by the way, you still need to have engineers checking up on AI.
Right? Because you can't just set it and forget it, right? You gotta trust but verify. Right?
Yeah, and then testing takes on a whole new capability, because now suddenly you're like, okay, wait a minute, this wrote this stuff, but is it actually doing what I asked it to do? Mm-hmm. And so when you think about budgets, and I used to work with CIOs all the time before at IBM, it's like you spend majority of the budget goes to development, and then everybody gets a small piece of it, and I think the budgets now change.
Totally.
Right. And so for people who are in development and engineering, they have opportunities to go upstream to product. or they have opportunities to go into architecture or be more strategic or think about data or actually think about testing.
Testing,
Um,
right?
and so there's a lot of other ways that we can move, but the key is what you said is you have to be ahead of the curve, not behind.
Right.
Right. Um,
Yeah.
by the way, our audience, if you have questions for Jen or myself, please drop them in the chat. We love to hear from you. Thank you, everybody, for already chiming in. Jen, if it's okay, let's take the opposite. And I know I'm always conscious of time because I know we have to, our conversation is going to keep on going. What happens if they choose not to invest in AI? And let's talk about from a product perspective first, then we can go into engineering.
I think, honestly, I think right now the choice not to invest is the biggest risk is it's a talent risk, right? So, listen, the economy, our economy is weird.
Yeah, so let's just keep it that way.
I don't know what other word to describe it, but our economy is weird. And it's going to probably be weird for a while. So, I think companies are going to have to weather that one way or another, but talent is going to be an issue for companies.
Yes.
Talent retention and talent, attracting talent and retaining talent is going to be probably one of the top issues for companies for the next, I don't even know how long. And I think companies that don't invest in a meaningful way in AI will not be able to retain talent, and they will not be able to attract talent.
I agree. 100%.
Plain and simple. And you'll lose the talent war. And then it becomes this like downward cycle, right? Because I think then what you're losing is the curiosity game or the game. And then you get this gap, right? Because then what you have is people working who just aren't like, they're like, that's fine. I didn't want to do AI anyways. And then you just get further and further and further behind, right?
Yeah. Yes. I you know what? I agree with you. I think the best people are going to gravitate towards companies who are AI first.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just a new way of working. And if once you have a new way of working, why would you ever go back to the old way?
Right.
Right. It's like telling you that, you know what, I have a smartphone, but no, by the way, you have to use a flip phone.
Right.
Who does that?
Who does that?
Who does that? Right. And so companies who are resisting, who are saying, you know what, I'm happy with the flip phone, are just shooting themselves in the foot.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so talent is a big one. I'm wondering if you actually see it as a competitive advantage, because I see it as a competitive advantage, because I can see us.
Absolutely. And right? I think let's separate a couple of things. One is, though, I think there's layers to AI, right? So is AI in the product that's being sold? I think that is one layer, right, of competitive advantage.
Definitely.
And then is AI being used in like how the product is being delivered, right, or serviced or whatever? And then is there AI in how employees are doing their job,
how you work,
right? In how you work.
Yeah.
So those three things,
right.
I think what my first answer was I think mostly about that third one, right? If like I think employees are going to be like, listen, if I can't even use AI in my day-to-day job, then I'm not even going to consider it. But then there's the other two layers.
I was referring to the third pillar as well.
Yeah.
Because I actually think, just from the data we have, like we have PMs who can do what they used to do, and their task time is reduced by 70 to 80%.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
If you do that, and if you really drive adoption, you are now working at a very different speed and scale than everyone else.
Yes.
Right? Even if you have so-so investments in the other two pillars.
Right.
Just the idea that your organization is now working at a much faster pace than your competitors.
Right.
Gives you an advantage. And by the way, that's a very small window, because eventually people will catch up. Right?
Absolutely.
But that small window can make a huge difference. Right? That's a 2 to 5 year window. And that's it.
Right? It's not just efficiency. It has the potential to also be quality.
Yes. Efficiency and effectiveness. I completely agree. Yes. And so you can make better decisions faster.
Right.
Right.
What's not to love?
I mean, think about that as a company who's who's struggling or is trying to beat their competition, that makes a huge difference, right?
And I do think that, like, um, again, in the business that we're in, helping companies move from project to product, I have the conversation often where we talk to leaders and they say, so is this going to result in cost savings for us? And I say, well, it can, but sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it actually means because I think in their mind, it means, oh, we're going to get more efficient. That means we can cut labor costs.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, where you're like, this could mean you actually have more product managers, right? It doesn't mean efficiency doesn't mean you're going to like reduce labor. It might actually mean that you grow, but you're growing in response to greater market saturation, or you're growing in response to some of these other things, but you're
100%.
growing in a more efficient, effective manner. Right.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, because I have this conversation. In fact, I had this with another client a few months ago. This is actually a podcast, so you can actually record it. It's actually recorded. One of the questions she asked is, can I use this to reduce my headcount? And I'm like, I think that's the wrong question.
It's the wrong question.
I think the question is, what can I do with the capacity that I already have? So number one, as a leader, you can now have a capacity more than your actual headcount. So for example, in a team of 20, if you can just go and use AI and each PM can save 10 hours a week, that's an additional capacity of adding 4 to 5 headcounts.
Right. You could show up in a company 2 or 3 times your size, right?
Exactly.
And what then could you do?
So you're adding headcount, you're adding capacity that you never had, and you don't have to pay for it, by the way, because all you have to do is buy a $20 subscription, or for enterprise is $60.
Right.
So that's number one. Number two is the velocity piece, and I actually think velocity beats everything in my. At least when I was running product, I'm like, I need to get this stuff out, shipped as fast as I can.
Yes.
To see how it's being reacted by the market, and then I can figure out what to do with my roadmap. And the velocity comes next. And then I personally think it comes down to better decisions, like more innovation, more creativity. AI can give you ideas that you have never thought about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it can push you in ways that you just go, oh, wait a minute, I didn't think about this. Or coming back to the other ideas, it can give you ideas about second order effects. Like if I push this and if I price it this way, how are my customers going to react? Right? I can simulate that now.
Right.
Without spending $1.
Right.
And I can think about second order effects and then design for it.
Right.
And so there's ways that we can, it just boggles my mind when people say, I don't want to invest. So
I know.
There's real risk. I mean, I agree. There's a lot of companies out there like, well, I'm not worried about security. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. So
yeah.
The other question is, you kind of talked about the 3 different pillars, right? But there's also 2 different types of organizations, right?
Yes.
You have product organizations who work at SaaS companies, and they're designed very differently, or they're organized very differently.
Yeah.
And there's product companies in more traditional organizations.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I'm curious, from your experience, do you think that they should approach this a bit differently? Or do you think that they both should follow the same adoption pattern?
Well, I think that so in my experience, I know what I know. I only know the air that I breathe, right? And so I think in enterprise, traditional enterprise or legacy enterprise, so thinking like legacy financial services companies, or education companies. Again, I come out of healthcare, I come out of education, I come from, I work in financial services, manufacturing companies that have been around for a long time. These are companies that have like a deep relationship with like risk, an adversity to risk, right? And so I think that like I think that the way baby steps is saying something. I don't like to sort of let people have too small a baby steps. Sometimes you got to push people into the shallow end of the pool, but the shallow end into the pool nonetheless. I think that like the way that most of those organizations have been experimenting with AI is kind of around that blank page problem, right? Oh, we will use it to like generate ideas and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the shift that I'm starting to see with some companies that are getting a little bit more aggressive with using AI is not only using it for blank page problem, but for what I call big rock problem, right?
Yeah.
So blank page problem is great, but big rock problem is I could stand here with my one hammer and hammer at this for the next 20 years, and I might
Yeah.
chip off a couple of, smaller rocks, and that'd be great. Or I could use AI and we could process this big rock in,
Yeah.
the next week, and we'd have
Yeah.
all the little rocks we need, kind of a
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is where enterprises getting some ideas around what are the big rocks that they could safely, right, with inside their risk profile, attack some big rocks that they then see those wins, right? Because that's how those legacy enterprise get over their risk mindset, is that they see big wins on safe bets. And that's when they're like, oh, and now here's another one and another one and another one, right? They get that momentum going, and they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get companies that have that risk mindset to move past the blank page into the big rock, I think that's the trick.
Yeah. I love that, the blank page and big rock, because you're absolutely right. I think there's so much that you can do. And I think your comment about being risk adverse, I personally think that if you know how to use AI well, it can identify risk even earlier on, better than most organizations, right?
Yes.
And the example I give you is one of the product managers we had, she wanted to build a GPT in which she would upload a PRD, and the GPT would then tell her all the potential risks that were there when she was communicating with engineering.
Yep.
Because there's always a loss of translation between what product says and what engineering says, right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of things that you never thought about.
Right.
And then you only find out either while you're in development or
because you stumbled into it, right?
when you have the user, right?
Yeah.
And so you can take that concept and say, you know what, I want to identify risk earlier on, so I can design that. And then that goes back to the comment about the second order piece, right?
Yeah.
And why stop at the translation of PRD to engineering requirements? You can keep going higher and higher up,
right?
And figure out what the risks are, right?
Yeah.
One of the anti-patterns I see, I wonder if you actually see these as well, is that companies choose to say, okay, I'm going to go all in AI. I'm going to be an AI first company. And that translates into buying a tool, right? That is their investment. And saying, okay, I'm just going to give this tool. And then, by magic, my team is going to become more efficient and effective. And they're going to be more creative, and they're going to be more productive. And they're going to be the superstar AI people.
And 3 people use it, and then it sits on the shelf.
Yeah.
You've just described the problem with every digital transformation that has ever lived.
I have seen so many times, in fact, some of my best customers are people who've actually done that. Excuse me. And they're like, Mustafa, we did this like 3 months ago, and now nobody's using it. You know what's even worse than nobody's using it? Is people do use it, but then they use it for writing emails.
Oh, God.
Or summarizing a document. And my comment to them is like, that is like using a Ferrari as a paperweight. Right? I'm like, you literally have given your team or product team or any team a Ferrari, and what you're telling them is like, just put it on your desk.
Yep.
Right? Or worse, go run into a tree. But that, I see that anti-pattern all the time. And by the way, I see that anti-pattern in both SaaS companies and in traditional companies.
Yeah,
right?
No one's immune to that. No one's immune to that. I mean, listen, this is what reminds me. So listen, my dad is a technologist. I mean, he's retired. He still is. It would not shock me if he's on this LinkedIn Live right now, by the way, but that's fine. Because he still's on.
If he should put a comment in.
Put a comment in if Tom Gelman's still on this. Anyways, he lifelong technologist, and he is the one who taught me the phrase that the technology is just a tool, right?
Yeah.
So like he is the guy that like put the first grocery store scanner in the state of Minnesota, like
wow.
first barcode scanner back in, the
Yeah.
early 70s. I mean, it was like, real
Yeah.
cutting edge stuff. He's been through every kind of technology transformation, and it doesn't matter what it is. Technology is just a tool.
Yeah.
And so it always starts with, what problem are you trying to solve and who are you trying to
Yeah.
solve it for? And the people who go out and buy the tool and plunk it down, the Ferrari as a paperweight, didn't ask that question of like, what's really needed inside this organization. So there was no sense of what problem are you trying to solve and who you're trying to solve it for.
Yeah.
There was a sense of it's one tool to rule them all, right?
Yeah.
There's
we
no
definitely have that too, because I'm like, you know what, it's not going to work in this new age.
right.
Like,
And
they
there's
ask me,
no
like,
change
which
management.
LLM
There's
should
no
I invest
adoption.
in? And I'm like, well, it depends on what you want to do.
Right.
So
I can guarantee you that what is needed by product is probably not the same tool needed by engineering. It's not the same tool needed by the legal team in the general counsel's office. Is not what's needed in HR.
Yeah, yes, 100%. Right. In fact, one of the things we notice with our clients is once we're done with them, they end up buying more tools.
Yes.
Because they realize the limitations and capabilities of each. And they're like, okay, if I want to do this, I should do this. If I want to do analytics, I should buy this.
Yes.
If I want to do this, I should buy that. And so
it's a scalpel. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a hatchet, right?
Yeah. And LLMs are deceiving, and I understand why leaders make that decision too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you think about it, you can go to any kind of you can go to OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, and you ask a question and it gives you an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're like, well, if it's that easy, I'm sure my team can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then I'm like, well, that's not how it works. Because asking the questions is a big skill. It's a new skill set.
Yes.
Right? We call it prompt engineering, but in reality, it's about how you ask questions.
Right.
Because you can make a huge difference between getting a good answer and a bad answer.
I mean, I remember
relevant and irrelevant.
Back in the day when we were all figuring out how to search the internet for good responses, right?
Exactly. And that's when we came up with this keyword thing, in which we used to use Google, right? Oh, by the way, that's the other thing, an anti-pattern I've seen, is that people use AI using keywords. And I'm like, that doesn't work either. Which is interesting, because and by the way, I can't blame them, because I remember this on myself. My first experience with ChatGPT when it first came out, and I was lucky enough to get early access, was I used keywords, because I'm like, that's how your brain thinks, right? Because you've been trained to think about that.
Sure.
That's how Google works. And I put in keywords, and I'm like, this sucks. I'm like,
why
is everybody talking about this technology that's awesome?
Right.
And it's not that good. And then I'm like, this is useless. And I actually literally
walked away from it.
I walked away. And then I'm like a week and a half later, I'm like, you know what? Let me try something different.
Yeah.
And that's when I started talking about, okay, let's ask a question like it's a normal conversation.
Yeah.
And then that's what led to the fact is, okay, asking questions is better. But then we have a whole framework on how to ask the right questions. We call the 5 keys. And that gives me great responses, effective, sorry, not effective, but relevant, creative, you name it. Jen, I know we're almost out of time. Well, we are out of time.
That's okay, but it's been a great conversation. I know.
So I'm going to ask you the last question, and then I'm sure our audience has to go too. So in your opinion, what's the best way for somebody to get started? So if you're a leader, you might be a CTO, a CIO, or a CPO. What's the one thing that they should do other than just saying buy a tool?
Don't buy a tool. Oh my God, don't buy a tool. That's the first thing you need to know is don't buy a tool. I mean, I think that like, if you're a CIO, CTO, I mean, if you're a CPO, TO, IO, anybody in those kind of roles, my actual response is go out and talk to your people and see what they're using. That's my actual advice, is see what your people, your brightest, your smartest people are using, and see what they're using and how they're using it. Like what problems are they using them for, and what tools are they using for it? And just like no judgment, let people know they're not going to get in trouble. Like you're not
or
checking
fired.
up on them or fired or
Yeah.
anything else like that, and just see what they're using.
Yeah.
If you're further down in the organization and you think you're like, and you're a product manager or whatever, and you're like, I don't know what to use. I mean, I think experimentation is there, and everyone's going to have like different rules in their organization about what they can and cannot use or whatever. Goodness knows, don't break rules for your company and that sort of thing. But there's within the constraints that you're allowed to use, even if you're only allowed to use Copilot within your company, like start using it and see and learn what you learned of like, oh, if I use keywords, it's worthless. But if I ask questions, in a certain way, I can get good answers. Like that experimentation is worth it.
I think the experimentation mindset is key. And I do think that your advice on you have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Right, is very important. In fact, in every engagement, and this is a non-negotiable for us, is that we will do a assessment and a maturity assessment. We'll do an assessment and we'll figure out how mature your organization is before we even suggest anything else.
Yeah,
because
it's a judgment-free assessment. Like nobody's getting in trouble. We just need to understand it, right?
I mean, that's why we fight, and more importantly, from an executive perspective, that's when you start collecting baseline data.
Yeah.
Because the other part of it is that, yes, I know my team is more efficient or effective, but how do you measure that?
Right.
And so you have to do that. You have to do that early assessment and saying, okay, how long does this take? How can we make this better? And then what is it after we use AI? And so that's how you drive the transformation. Because without those data points and without those metrics, you're like saying, yes, we're faster, but like, how much faster?
How much faster, right? We do the same thing in our operating model transformation because nobody really starts from zero. Everybody's got an operating model. The question is it working for you? So you've got to start with an honest. I think I've quoted this book 7 times this week, but Janice Frazier wrote a book called Further, Faster, and Far Less Drama. And one of the key principles in there is that if you're going to like transform your organization, you have to start with honest orientation.
Yes. Right? Yeah. And it's amazing how many times organizations delude themselves.
Totally.
Into thinking that they are so much faster or better. And then you have to just kind of say, okay, let's just be honest with ourselves. Tell us where we are. Because if you can't get to that honesty, then how are you going to take your organization to the next
step? That's right. 100%.
With that being said, our time we're way over. We should do a follow-on because we can continue forever.
I know.
But thank you very much for joining. And thank you for our audience for joining. I'm glad you guys were able to share with us what you think. And I promise you we'll do part 2.
Sounds good.
And Jen, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.